Welcome back. The Joint Tax Board is not relenting in its strive to launch the new taxpayer identification number in regions across the country. The board has officially flagged off the new system in the North Central region, with Kwara State as the choice state. According to the chairman, Babatunde Fowler, the improved tax collection system will cut the cost of collection and reduce the burden on taxpayers.
This is another flag-off event of a tax identification number taking place, this time in Ilori, the Kwara State capital for the North Central region. The tax identification number was launched in July this year by the Joint Tax Board, headed by Babatunde Fowler, to reduce the bottlenecks in tax collection across the country. The online process eliminates queuing at tax offices for registration and helps reduce precious man hours. All that's needed is an internet-enabled device. Amen. According to the chairman, the revenue generated at the state level rose from 800.02 billion naira to 1.6 trillion naira between 2016 and 2018, representing an increase of 46.11%, and collections by FIRS rose from 3.30 trillion in 2016 to 5.32 trillion naira in 2018, the highest ever. This represents an increase of 53.81%.
The choice of Kwara State as a host for the North Central Region flag-off event is strategic, and it is in recognition of the pathfinding role it has played in the quest towards ensuring sustainable, internally generated revenue for the state as well as for the region.
The new TIN registration system and its consolidated database of individuals and corporate taxpayers have been designed to form the foundation upon which the nation's automated tax administration system is built.
The governor of the state, however, urges the government to improve the tax system in order to have a consolidated database.
We are very optimistic that this launch of the National Taxpayer Identification Number (TIN) registration system and consolidated national taxpayers database will indeed increase the coverage of taxpayers, simplify tax process across the North Central region.
The new TIN registration system will enable taxpayers access the system anywhere in the world.
First Bank of Nigeria is asking that more attention be given to the textile industry and players that thrive across board in the country. This comes in the wake of the commemoration of Nigeria's 59th independence anniversary, where the bank encouraged staff to wear locally made attires. The clothing adorned in the bank's also adorned the bank's 125th logo, which commemorates the feat. It was themed, woven into the fabric of society. According to First Bank, the vibrant colors of the logo represent the nation's, peoples, and the diversity which the bank fosters. The embroidered fabric showcased different cultural attire from Nigeria and beyond. The bank had earlier launched a #WhatIf campaign across its social media channels to promote the versatility and increased use of local fabrics as a national symbol in their outfits, clothing, accessories, household furniture, among others. Over 18,000 staff of the bank and FBN Holdings Group took part in the activity to exemplify the bank's deeply rooted contribution to the growth of the textile industry in the country. According to the bank's management, the native attire fashion statement by First Bank and the FBN Holdings Group is rooted in the trust in the diverse opportunities the textile industry provides and the belief that its contribution to national growth and development vis-a-vis the job opportunities, youth and empowerment, entrepreneurship cannot be overemphasized. More business news now. Here's Kayode Okikiolu.
You first. First Bank.
Well, that's right, Amarachi, and you're welcome to Business News. The federal government has signed an additional €70 million financing bilateral agreement with the Republic of Germany on sustainable economic development, renewable energy, education and security, amongst others. The Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Mr. Clem Agba, explained that the areas of intervention by the government of Germany were in line with economic sustainability and inclusive growth espoused by the government of Nigeria in the Economic and Recovery Growth Plan. Mr. Agba commended the German government for its continuous support and commitment to the development of the Nigerian nation since the 1960s. And there's a clarification coming from the Central Bank over the 499.1 million naira which it debited 12 banks for failing to meet its 60% minimum lending to the real sector of Nigeria's economy. As the bank says, this fund will be refunded whenever the affected lenders meet the threshold. CBN's Director of Banking Supervision, Mr. Hamad Abdullahi, who made this clarification, assured the Nigerian's banking industry is committed to supporting the real sector. He, however, refuted reports that the new LDR policy could lead to a further build-up in the non-performing loans of banks operating in the country. The CBN had in July increased the loan-to-deposit ratio for banks from 58.5% to 60%, with September the 30th, 2019 as a deadline for lenders to maintain this target. More stories. The FMTQ Exchange, in collaboration with the Lagos State Government, has officially introduced the Lagos Financial Center for Sustainability, an initiative that aims to implement the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. With Lagos as the pilot state for the financing program, showcasing the concept and principles of sustainability, several environmental projects are expected to be birthed with the scheme in the next 10 years. And it's a new low for the new month at the domestic stock market as the NSE's main index drops below the 27,000 level on persistent shares sell-off by investors. Well, let's get the details from Teniola Shoboali.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. 4 days of sustained sell pressure this week pushed the stock market's main index below the 27,000 level, down by 0.35% at the close of Friday's trading session. The latest downturn in market, which comes amid a slightly mixed sectoral performance, was largely driven by further price losses from high-value stocks such as MTN Nigeria, as well as some industrial goods, banking and oil and gas sector key components. An additional 48 billion naira was knocked from the market's total value in response to the profit-taking on 17 equities led by 9.88% loss from Fitson Healthcare against gains recorded by 11 advances led by 8.65% increase on UAC property share prices. Investors' buy sentiment for stocks weakened further compared to Thursday's session as a total of 138.87 million shares changed hands in 2,688 deals led by the shares of UAC Properties, GT Bank and Continental Reinsurance. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Teniola Shoboali.
Thank you, Teniola. Outside the country, stocks on Wall Street closed Friday's trading session positive across board, and that's on the back of strong September job reports. But let's find out how other major global markets ended the day. Well, thank you for watching Business News. I am Kayode Okikiolu. The news at 10 continues with Amarachi.
Thank you, Kayode. On the foreign scene, Hong Kong's chief executive, Carrie Lam, denies she is gradually becoming authoritarian over the territory, as follows criticism over a ban on the use of face masks by anti-government demonstrators. Here's Juliana Olainka with more international news in Around the World in 5.
From the Channel's newsroom in London. Hong Kong's chief executive, Carrie Lam, has denied claims that an emergency law banning face masks during protests is a step closer to authoritarianism.
The objective of this regulation is to end violence and restore order. And I believe this is now the broad consensus of Hong Kong people. The third point is this regulation targets rioters or those resort to violence. That's why the regulation contains defense and exemptions to cater for legitimate needs to wear a mask, and we believe that by so doing, we have struck the necessary balance.
The emergency law will also include curfews, censorship of the media and the control of transport networks. It's due to take effect tomorrow. As the new rule was confirmed, demonstrators took to the streets to protest against it, damaging a metro station. A Ukrainian prosecutor has said he was not aware of any evidence of wrongdoing by the son of former US Vice President and 2020 presidential candidate Joe Biden, and that he had not been contacted by any foreign lawyers about the case. In response, the US President Donald Trump took to Twitter. As president, I have an obligation to end corruption, even if that means requesting the help of a foreign country or countries. It is done all the time. This has nothing to do with politics or a political campaign against the Bidens. This does have to do with their corruption. In a July phone call, Trump asked the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to investigate Biden and his son Hunter, who earned money from a Ukrainian gas company. The call has triggered an impeachment inquiry into whether the US president sought personal and political gain by pushing for a foreign investigation into one of his main political rivals. The Irish leader Leo Varadkar has said he would consider a Brexit extension if the UK sought one. Speaking during a meeting with his Danish counterpart in Copenhagen, Varadkar said that there was a long way to go before an agreement that would satisfy both the people of Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland could be made.
My preference is that we have that agreement at the Council in the middle of October. But if the UK government were to request an extension, I think we would consider that. Of course we would consider it. But I think most EU countries would really only consider it for a good reason. That reason would have to be put forward, but certainly an extension would be better than no deal.
The death toll from 3 days of anti-government protests in Iraq has climbed to above 44. This, according to police and medical sources. 16 people were killed in the capital, Baghdad. The protests, which pose one of the country's biggest security challenges in years, began over unemployment and poor services, but have escalated into calls for a change of government. A state of emergency has been declared in Ecuador. Nationwide protests have been sparked over the end of decades-old fuel subsidies in a government fiscal reform package worth more than $2 billion a year. Ecuador's President Lenin Moreno told reporters that the perverse and highly costly subsidy in place for 40 years had distorted the economy. Britain has joined forces with America and Australia to call on Facebook to not go ahead with end-to-end encryption across its messaging services unless law enforcement officials have backdoor access. It's hoped that the move will help authorities to fight against child abuse and terrorism. In an open letter to the Facebook chief executive, Mark Zuckerberg, the three allies said that while they supported strong encryption, it was necessary to balance the need for secure data with public safety.
Well, this agreement is a world first, and this takes our bilateral cooperation to a new level in terms of sharing data and information when it comes to the people that seek to do harm to our countries, when it comes to terrorists, but also child abusers, and the very individuals that we are looking to pursue through the dark web and through the internet.
Rory Stewart, a one-time contender to become British Prime Minister, will stand as an independent in the 2020 contest to become Mayor of London. Stewart, who came fifth in the contest to succeed Theresa May, had taken one of the most moderate stances on Brexit among the candidates, but has now quit the party to enter the race to run Britain's capital city. And finally, West Africa's newest mosque has opened in Dakar. With a 30,000 capacity, the mosque is touted as the largest in the region, with a price tag of over €30 million. Work began a decade ago on a 6-hectare area of land donated by the government. As you can see from these pictures, the lavish interiors include a gold leaf dome, giant chandeliers and decorations hand-drawn by Moroccan workmen. And that's your international news around the world in 5.
Thanks, Juliana. Still ahead on the news at 10, Tottenham manager Mauricio Pochettino says he will remain at the North London club for at least 5 more years, ending speculations he could quit following a string of unimpressive results. We'll have details on sports news. Stay with us.